Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar, Total Telephony. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through some introductions. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm part of the sales engineer team here at Interface. We're Bitrix24 Gold partners and we're based in the UK, the US and Hong Kong. And we offer a full range of services to help you with Bitrix24, starting off with pre-sales support, so we can help to evaluate your requirements to see if Bitrix24 will be a good solution for what you're trying to achieve. And if it is, we can then implement the system for you and get the system working for your use case. If you're looking at a self-hosted edition, we offer our own hosting services, and we can provide training and ongoing support to ensure you get the biggest return on your investment from using Bitrix24. Okay, so if you come to the webinar today to actually find out more about Bitrix24, Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess of 35 different types of tools that you can use to essentially manage your business. There are over 10 million customers around the world that use the Bitrix24 system, and the software is available in two different solutions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. Prices start from $49 per month for a cloud package and $2,990 for a self-hosted Business 50 license. Okay, so today's webinar is Total Telephony. So we're going to be really looking into how we can use the telephony integration features within the Bitrix24 system. And we can see here some of the key areas we're going to look at today. So we'll start off looking at the built-in phone system that Bitrix24 has on offer for you. We'll see how we can integrate with existing PBXs. And then we'll see how we can integrate with the CRM system. And that's a real key area if you're wanting to take advantage of the telephony features within Bitrix24. And then we'll have a look at reporting and also the costs for the different ways we can integrate telephony into Bitrix24. Okay, so first of all, it's important to understand the different ways and options we have for telephony within Bitrix24. So the first option is Bitrix Telephony. And this is essentially where you rent a number from Bitrix24, which is then integrated into your Bitrix24 system. So this is a brand new number. It isn't a number you can choose or you can use your old number. This will be a new number, which then is integrated so you can receive calls directly in Bitrix and make outbound calls from the Bitrix24 system. And the other option, if you're wanting to stick with your phone provider, if you're wanting to use your own existing numbers, for example, we would then use an integration to feed those numbers into the Bitrix24 system. Okay then, so let's first of all take a look at option 1, which is the Bitrix Telephony. So we're going to be renting a Bitrix24 number. So let's see how we can set this up, and we'll see how this can then be integrated with the CRM system. Okay, so we've come into our Bitrix24 system, and to be able to rent a number from Bitrix, we need to go to the telephony module. And then we can see here, this opens up the telephony page. And where we want to go to is where we can see a rent a number option. Okay, so what we can do when we rent a Bitrix number is we can select what country we want to rent for. So you can see here all the different countries that we can select from. And then based on the country we select, we can then choose a type of number. And then based on that, we could say select the region or whatever type of number we select here. So if we go local, I could select down to the region that I would want to have that call number for. Okay, so we can see here that will cost approximately $6 per month to rent that number. Now, it is important to understand, included in that cost are all inbound calls made to that number, and outbound calls are charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. So here we can see the call rates. So we will upload this onto the YouTube channel for you to access at the end of today's webinar. So when you're budgeting and evaluating what is the most appropriate telephony option for you, it is important to take into consideration all of these different factors. So we've mentioned around the renting of the number, but then we also have the outbound call charges as well. And another important factor to mention is with certain countries, you do have to upload documentation. So for example, here, if you're wanting to rent a number for Germany, you need to have a valid postal address to actually rent that number. So just take this into consideration as well when you are looking to rent your number. Okay, so once we rented our number, this will show here in the My Number section. It's important to then add some balance for those outbound calls. So you upload and top up your balance here, and then that will get reduced every time you make one of those outbound calls, and also your monthly connection cost for renting the number. So once we have our number, we can now start to configure this. So this now becomes our virtual phone system. So we can see the number we have, and now we're going to configure the settings so I can set up my virtual phone system. So here we have the rented number, and now I can start to program the settings for the inbound call routing. So I'm going to play some welcome music, and what I can also do is I can set up an IVR menu. So this is a voice menu we can set up. So when the customer calls in, they are greeted with this message, so we can then start to channel the customer to specific departments or to specific people, for example. So it could be I say press 1 for a specific group, and then I say press 2, and that can then send you into the, let's select a specific employee. So it could be we say press 2 to be sent to Mark, for example. But a really good way of looking at the voice menu is you may have 1 for sales and 2 for support, for example. So you can make sure the calls are routed to the appropriate people in your business. And then we can set up the speech that is mentioned to the customer when they are on the call. So let's say press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. And that will get relayed to the customer when they call that number. And you can set up the language, the speed that message is relayed, and the volume. Or you can upload your own personal recorded message as well. We can also integrate with the CRM system, so we can automatically record the calls inside the CRM system here. We can save that option, play a warning message for the inbound calls. You can also set up working hours, so you may only want the line to be accessible for certain time periods, and then set up an out of hours message as well. So there's lots of different elements you can then configure for your virtual phone system, and this is available for every single number that you rent. So you can adapt it for different, if you rent for different countries, you may adapt the working hours for every country, for example. And what we can also do is we can set up permissions within the telephony module. So it could be you don't want all users to be able to edit elements of the settings, for example. So what we can do is we can set up roles within the system here. And based on that role, we can then set access rights. So we may say, for example, the settings we may deny for certain roles, but the administrator role here, we want them to have full access. So you can completely configure the settings on here. Okay, and now let's take a look at how this actually connects with our CRM system. So let's go into our CRM. And we'll see here how we can then route calls directly inside the system. So what you can do, for example, is you may want to be able to actually make an outbound call directly inside the system. So inside a contact here, for example, what I could do is I could call out directly from the system here. Or if we have an inbound call, I can answer that call directly on the interface here. And then what we can do is we can record those calls, so I can play those calls back. So we can have that saved directly inside the system. So you don't need to remember the conversations you've had with your clients. And we can now see a new call coming into the system. So I can answer that, I can ignore that call, I can transfer that call. So you can see how this looks when a person from your CRM system calls into the system. It pulls up their information. It can be routed to the responsible person, for example. And we can answer those calls directly in the Bitrix system and also using the mobile app as well. And another very useful feature with the telephony integration is you may want to set up call lists for your sales team. So inside here I could select the leads that I want to distribute, and I could start dialing directly from the system here. Or I could set up a call list. So actually what I may want to do is say set this task for this person maybe for tomorrow, that I want them to call that particular group of leads. So I can save that in here. Okay, I'm going to save it for a certain responsible person, which is going to change this here to Jim, and that has now been saved in the system for him as a new call list, so we can call through those new leads and prospects and try to get them through the sales process. So you can see how the telephony integration can now interact with lots of different areas of our Bitrix24 system. Okay, let's just see if we have any questions. Okay, we had some questions coming in earlier on. Is there a limit to the number of rented numbers that I can rent? So no, there is no limit. You just need to make sure you do have enough balance on your credit to be able to rent those numbers, and make sure you have enough balance when you're making outbound calls. If you are renting a lot of numbers, I guess for making outbound calls, you'll need to make sure you've got a good amount of balance to prevent those lines being deactivated. Okay, if there are any other questions, please do add them into the question box, and we can run through those during the rest of today's Total Telephony webinar. Okay, so what we've done so far is we've seen how we can rent a Bitrix24 rented number. That was the option 1 that we have discussed. We have another option, which is option 2, and that is integrations. So it could be you want to keep your existing phone provider because you have a really good call package set up with them. Or maybe you have an existing number that you simply don't want to lose, and your customers are used to that number. So there are reasons why you would want to connect your existing phone number and provider into Bitrix. So we can see here a few different ways we could manage this. So let's go back into our telephony module. Okay, so another option is actually, first of all, seeing if Bitrix24 already has an application in the marketplace with your phone provider. So Bitrix has lots of apps with phone providers that allow integrations to be made into the system. So first of all, check if your phone provider is in the marketplace here, and also please do check that you have the correct plan with that provider. So for example here, this is Ring Central. You need to have a premium or enterprise Ring Central plan to be able to use this integration. So check that first. But if you do, then you could use this integration. There's no need to really take any other step. You can use this and then integrate your numbers with Bitrix24. Another option is if you have an Office or a cloud PBX, so private branch exchange, we can look to use the SIP connector to connect your PBX into Bitrix24. So what you need to do is select the appropriate one, if it's the Cloud PBX or the Office PBX. And this will then open up a form here where you need to input your appropriate credentials. And what we can then do is spend up to 16 minutes testing the configuration with your PBX for free. So we can test and make outbound calls to make sure the connection has been set up correctly. Once we've done that and the connection is working appropriately, we can then buy the SIP connector. And this will cost $49 per month to be able to have the SIP connector in your Bitrix24 system running to allow you to feed your numbers into Bitrix. Now, there is no additional cost there in terms of that connection, so the call package that you have set up with your phone provider is what you will pay for the inbound and the outbound calls. There is just that additional cost for the actual connection using the SIP connector. Okay, and that then allows you to integrate your numbers. They will show inside here, and then you have the ability to manage all of your numbers inside the Bitrix24 system. The other option, if none of those will work for you, is we can look to use the API to build a bespoke integration for you. That's really the other option. Now, as a word of warning, that could cost anywhere in the region of $15,000 to $20,000. So for some businesses that may not be appropriate, but I guess for large call centers, we have quite a few call centers who use the telephony features within Bitrix24. It's a very small price to pay for a very critical aspect of your business. Okay, so that's a look there at the options for integrations. And then it's important just to recover some of those costs that we've mentioned so far today. There have been quite a few. So if you're going to use the Bitrix rented number option, then the number itself will cost approximately $6 per month to rent the number. Obviously, in certain countries such as Germany, you need to have valid postal documentation and address documentation to be able to rent that number. Inbound calls are included in the cost, and outbound calls will be charged per minute based on the country you are calling to, and we'll add those call rates into the question box shortly. If you're going to use the Bitrix SIP connector, that is a flat rate of $49 per month, and then you will just continue to pay your existing phone provider for those inbound and outbound calls. And then the other option with the integrations in the marketplace, please check to make sure that you are on the correct type of license with your phone provider to be able to use the integration. Okay, so in summary today, we've looked at the virtual phone system, so how we can build out our phone system from the inbound call routing. We can record calls directly inside the system, and we can also make outbound calls and set up call lists inside the platform as well. And then we saw how an inbound call can look if we do integrate with the CRM system. We can have that pop-up display to be able to answer that call directly inside the system, and those calls can be recorded as well. One thing to mention just quickly, if we go back into our Bitrix system, there are reporting tools as well. So if you are renting a Bitrix number, you have call statistics that you can use. So this allows you to build your own dashboards based on the information inside your Bitrix24 system, so we can see the distribution of calls over a specific time period. We might want to look at the call density, so this could be really useful if you are a call center, for example. You want to analyze when are you most busy over different days and time periods, so you can ensure you are scheduling enough staff over certain time periods. And we might want to look at employee performance reports, so we might want to see actually how well they're actually working on their calls, how many calls they're making, so we can create our own dashboards of the information inside our reporting tool there. And I think in summary, the final point is very important. It is a very low setup cost. If you are happy to rent a Bitrix number, it's really simple to do, and it can be from as little as $6 per month. and then inbound calls are included in that cost. So it's a very cost-effective way of integrating telephony into your Bitrix24 system. Okay, so thank you very much for joining today's Total Telephony webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. So here are a selection of those webinars. We're here every other Tuesday at 11 AM Eastern Time. So please do register for the next webinar. If you do have any questions in the meantime, please do contact sales@intraface.com and we'll be happy to set up a meeting with you to discuss those requirements in more detail. Okay, thanks very much for your time today. Bye for now.